I feel like we can fight. I feel like I can fight both sides of all of this because there's just so much horrible. I was rewatching some of this last night because I was curious, like, how current or like how much of this video could I theoretically go through, with the knowledge that I have so far. There are a couple things that he says here that he actually just gets completely wrong.
This and all of this. Israel then proceeds to give up like all of it.
Oh, that statement. Oh, I don't know. I got there immediately. This idea that Israel captured the entire Sinai, and then they proceed to give up like all of it. No, they don't. I'm sorry. They hold on to the West Bank, they hold on to the Golan Heights, and they hold on to the Sinai so hard that that's part of the provocation for the Yom Kippur War was literally trying to take it back. There's a lot of stuff he says in here that is, some of it is just wrong. Now, I don't know if he's skipping ahead like 15 years later. He's like, well, they technically do a peace process to give it back after another war, blah, blah, blah. There's a couple things that he just gets wrong in here. And there's also a couple things that the way that he says them, like, so for instance, after the signing of the, I think it was the Oslo Accords, he's like, and then after the Oslo Accords were signed, like violence increases or whatever. And he makes it sound like it's the Palestinians, but he never mentions all of the Israeli violence. Or he never mentions, for instance, that Hebron massacre at the one place. He makes it sound like it's only Palestinians that are ever committing violence. I don't remember where does the Oslo Accords here. I'm sorry. The more that I learn about this, the more I listen to other people talk about it, the more like super triggered I get when I hear people like, it's got to be intentional.
Better than the offer that Barak gave in 2000. He offers everything. He offers Judea and Samaria. He says, we're going to keep some of the big Israeli settlements that exist here, but we're going to...
His summary here of them offering everything for the Camp David summit. They did offer a lot. They didn't offer everything, though. That's not true, right? All of the airspace would be exclusively controlled by Israel. There would be some pretty major settlements that are still... He talks about it here. The West Bank would be arguably split in half because of the controlled role from Jerusalem to the Dead Sea. That's not true. Yeah. So much of everything that he says is like...
After Israel withdraws from Gaza, remember, Israel's not in control of anything here. Immediately rushed in and burned everything. They just turned them over to the Palestinians. Gaza Strip. These are places people have lived for decades. Ariel Sharon, who's one of the great hawks in why it's correct, he wrote his entire island control over the Gaza Strip, right? A Palestinian state, boom, done. Arafat does not even negotiate control over the down flat. He offered that Israel has. Ehud Barak offered complete control over the picture.
Hold on, there was a statement here. I'm sorry.
At this point, and the Prime Minister of Israel is now a guy named Ehud Barak. And Ehud Barak is a real dove. Ehud Barak wants to make as many concessions as humanly possible.
Oh, and it's also really funny that when Shapiro talks about anybody willing to work with Palestinians, he always speaks with such derision. He's like, they're weak, they're doves, right? I didn't know there was an insult term on the opposite of hawk. I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't know that was but I guess it is. I've just never heard the term before.
Rule yourselves. Like, just stop bothering us. Separate off or to preside over these areas. Israel is not interested in governing millions of Palestinians in the Gaza Strip or in Judea and Samaria. The last thing they want to do is have their soldiers wandering around these dangerous areas or to preside over these areas. All they want, and all Israel's ever wanted, is to separate off from these particular areas and say, listen, you guys rule yourselves. Like, just stop bothering us, please. Okay, and you'll see that this is the continued pattern. 2000, Israel engages in the Camp David negotiation.
Also, I don't know if he ever, I don't think in this whole video, I don't know if he ever mentions settlers ever. I don't know if he ever mentions them a single time. Or if he did, I just didn't hear him ever bring them up. And I was like, bro.
Starts negotiating with the Palestine Liberation Organization, which is a really weird shift, considering Yasser Arafat is a master terrorist responsible for tons of murders on his hands. The government of the state of Israel starts negotiating from 1987 to 1991. By this time, Yitzhak Rabin has taken over as Prime Minister of Israel, and pushed by George H.W. Bush, the government of the state of Israel starts negotiating with the Palestine Liberation Organization, which is a really weird shift, considering Yasser Arafat is a master terrorist responsible for tons of murders on his hands. He, at this point, has been expelled all the way to Tunis, right? He's not even in the picture. And Israel brings him out of retirement, basically, and says, why don't we negotiate with you? And maybe you can make all of this stop. So in 1993, they signed the Oslo Accords, and that is where you get Bill Clinton presiding over one of the least successful international negotiations in the history of international politics. The Oslo Accords have been a complete and utter failure. That ends with Yitzhak Rabin, who's this historic general who's been Prime Minister of Israel a couple of times by this point, shaking hands with a mass-murdering terrorist, Yasser Arafat, and this was going to initiate a new period of health and accord, and there was going to be peace. All that the PLO had to do was acknowledge that Israel existed and had a right to exist, stop educating their children in terrorism, and cease the violence. They couldn't do any of those things, right? So none of that happened. Instead, there's an uptick in violence, pretty dramatic uptick in violence after the Oslo Accords.
Notice how he says that so smoothly. The PLO said that there would be no violence, and guess what? There was a massive uptick in violence, right? Notice how he doesn't mention this, that on the after the Oslo Accords, that I'm pretty sure that one of the largest things of violence was that Goldstein guy walking into the Cave of the Patriarchs in Hebron and throwing grenades in and shooting like 100 plus people and killing almost 30 of them, right? He makes it sound like that violence was only coming from the Palestinians. He doesn't mention the uptick of violence coming from ultra-far-right, ultra-nationalist Zionists. He doesn't mention that at all. When Sadat, when the Egyptian leader was executed for signing or assassinated, I'm sorry, when he was assassinated for signing the peace agreement with Israel, Ben Shapiro brings that up. He's like, oh, he signed a peace deal with Israel, and then he got assassinated. He doesn't bring up that Rabin was also assassinated by far-right Zionist people who were mad at the Oslo Accords. He doesn't bring that up. Sorry. This is such a fucking horrible fucking video. Sorry. Okay, I'm done. I watched through this again last night. I was like, on a scale from 1 to 10, how wrong has Ben than the average person who covers it? This is the issue. For the most part, his video is mostly factual. But it doesn't. When you omit like half the story, you're not really. You're getting a bunch of true facts, but you're not getting a true story, right? Do you remember when I said a long time ago? I don't know if you guys even agree with me or not on this one. I think my community might have been mostly against me on this. I'm not sure. We argued about WikiLeaks and the leaks of the Democratic Party, and I made this statement at the time when I debated Bernie Bros and Trumples. I made the statement that leaks from one side is worse than leaks from no side. I'd rather have no leaks than just selective leaks, because selective leaks are giving you a worse story than no leaks, right? Because if you have no leaks, you don't really know what anybody's up to. They might be doing some weird shit. They might be doing some weird shit. Who the fuck knows, okay? Not sure. But when you only get leaks from one side, the assumption is those people are really bad. I didn't get any leaks of those people. Those people must be pretty good. And that is incredibly damaging. Having leaks from only one side only serves to create a false story in your mind. Even if the facts are real, the narrative is fabricated because you don't have all the facts. It's very, very, very hard for people to understand that. And it's very frustrating when people don't, because, yeah. Why don't people from the other side expose the other side shit? You honestly believe they were above leaking stuff, and that's why nothing was exposed? The exposer was WikiLeaks. It wasn't the Trump campaign. And the really damning statement, although he only said it once, was Assange literally said he wasn't going to leak anything about Trump because he felt like what Trump's public statements were already bad enough, which is that's an insane statement to make. What? But whatever. Can you steelman the Hamas position? Probably not. Well, I mean, I can't, but it's not going to sound good. If I had to guess, and I haven't actually read into any Hamas ideology, if I had to guess, the steelman position is Egypt, Jordan. Our Arab brothers are signing these basically unilateral agreements with Israel, or bilateral agreements, without considering us at all. The other Arab countries, because aside from like Iran and Hezbollah, nobody's really looking out for our Palestinian interests. And now we're forced to cuck to Israel and sign some bullshit agreement when we have no other representation in the Arab world, and we're negotiating from a position of oppressed peoples. So this, we're just going to terrorist a little bit, and we're going to fight as hard as we can to get whatever borders we can, and the whole country of Israel, we're going to delete all of them. That's probably, that sounds extreme, but I mean, it is an Islamic jihadist, I think, right? Hamas is an Islamist organization, I'm pretty sure, right? And like, yeah, I mean, so, but that's probably the, that would be like the steelman, as steelman as you could have a position, I think.